Hi, and thank you for visiting my channel. For more information, kindly subscribe and follow. Now let's get started. WWE Friday Night SmackDown is almost here, and it should be another big show. The Blue brand moved from 2 hours to 3 hours at the beginning of the year, which has renewed interest in the long-running program. One of the top acts on Friday Night SmackDown is the new Bloodline and, more specifically, the leader of the group. Solo Sikoa has led this stable since April of last year, following Roman Reigns' loss of his world title to Cody Rhodes. Solo is in an interesting spot these days, however. He lost the Tribal Combat match to Roman Reigns at the Raw premiere on Netflix and lost his Ula Fala in the process. Now, it isn't clear what direction his career will take. This article will look ahead to Friday Night SmackDown and what Sikoa might do on the big show. This includes a major character change and even aligning himself with his recent foe. What might the star do? Below are 4 things Solo Sikoa can do on WWE SmackDown. 4. Solo Sikoa could turn babyface. Solo Sikoa debuted on WWE's main roster in 2022 as a member of the Bloodline alongside Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, Sami Zayn, and Paul Heyman. In the 2.5 years since then, Sikoa has undergone several changes. He went from the fresh face of the group to the enforcer of the Bloodline. Eventually, Solo took over the group and became the tribal chief of the new Bloodline. One thing that has remained consistent, however, is that Solo has remained a heel on WWE's main roster. That could change on SmackDown. In what would be a stunning moment, Solo could stop Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu from attacking Jimmy Uso, Braun Strowman, LA Knight, or a different star. While it might go badly for him, it would be a babyface turn that would shock fans. 3. He could explain his silence from last week. Solo Sikoa lost to Roman Reigns on the WWE Raw Netflix premiere at the beginning of the month. He lost in Tribal Combat and thus had to give up the right to be the tribal chief, and he even lost his Ula Fala. Since then, Solo has remained radio silent. He missed SmackDown and then returned last week only to stay silent. Instead of speaking, he awkwardly walked out while the crowd booed. Nobody knows what he was going to say, and nobody can be sure why he chose to remain silent. On the Blue brand tonight, Solo could finally explain his actions. He could blame the fans and their disrespect for his silence. Alternatively, he could be surprisingly open and explain he had stage fright or that the moment was overwhelming. While Solo isn't typically the type to be vulnerable, never say never in WWE. 2. Solo Sikoa could try to reunite with Roman Reigns on WWE SmackDown. With Solo Sikoa losing the right to be called Tribal Chief and the Ula Fala, he has 3 possible directions. He could try to move on and block it out entirely, Solo could keep trying to win it back, or he could do something nobody sees coming. Solo could submit to Roman Reigns. He could admit his loss and, above all else, acknowledge Roman Reigns as his tribal chief. This would be shocking, but it would be the right thing to do given how the family and the Bloodline operate. Of course, this could be quite interesting to WWE fans because it would raise a lot of questions. Is Solo genuine? If he is, how will Tama and Jacob Fatu react? Could it all be a major setup? Would Roman Reigns accept him back? It would be fascinating. 1. He could try to recruit Carmelo Hayes to the group. WWE Friday Night SmackDown last week saw Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga lay out several stars, with the most notable likely being Jimmy Uso. To do so, the duo actually interrupted a great match. Carmelo Hayes and Jimmy Uso were having a banger, but the Samoan Werewolf and Tama Tonga interrupted things and laid Jimmy out. Carmelo was happy and seemingly tried to fit in with the group, only for Jacob to take out the cocky WWE star too. On SmackDown, however, they could correct course. Solo Sikoa could see Carmelo as a valuable asset and invited him to join the Bloodline. Carmelo, knowing the wrath of Fatu firsthand now, would likely be quick to accept. There is power in numbers, and the new Bloodline desperately needs numbers. WWE SmackDown was buzzing with anticipation. The night was set to be electric, with rumors swirling about the future of the bloodline, Roman Reigns' looming return, and the possibility of Solo Sikoa making a significant move. Fans were eager to see where the next chapter of the Roman Reigns-led faction would go after Solo had gone rogue, breaking away from the tribal chief script. Little did they know, tonight would mark a turning point that would leave a lasting impact on SmackDown, the entire WWE universe, and the bloodline itself. The scene was set when the ominous music of Solo Sikoa hit. The crowd erupted as the enforcer of the bloodline walked out, dressed in his usual black attire, his eyes steely and focused. But this time, there was a slight change in his demeanor. The intensity of his presence had been replaced with a quiet determination, a feeling of something monumental about to unfold. Sikoa made his way to the ring, microphone in hand. The tension was palpable as the audience waited for him to speak. "For months now, I've been carrying the weight of the bloodline on my shoulders," Solo began, his voice steady but filled with a sense of purpose. "I've seen Roman Reigns walk around like he's untouchable. But there's one thing I realized: I was never meant to be his enforcer. I was meant to be my own man." The crowd buzzed with confusion and speculation. Was Solo turning on Roman? Was he about to announce his departure from the faction? But just as it seemed like this was a moment of rebellion, a shift happened. "But I've learned something tonight," Solo continued, his eyes narrowing as he looked towards the stage. "I've learned that family isn't just about loyalty, it's about trust. And it's time I trust my family again." Suddenly, the arena lights dimmed, and the unmistakable sound of Roman Reigns' theme filled the air. The crowd erupted in cheers and boos, a mixture of emotions flooding the building as the tribal chief, the undisputed face of WWE, made his way to the ring. Roman, flanked by Paul Heyman, stared down Solo with a mixture of confusion and curiosity. It was the moment that would define the next chapter of their story. Solo stood tall, but instead of backing down, he extended his hand. The entire WWE universe held its breath as Roman stood still for a moment, evaluating his younger cousin. After what felt like an eternity, Roman Reigns took Solo's hand, pulling him in for a hug. The crowd went wild. The bloodline was reunited, and Solo Sikoa had officially made a monumental babyface turn. The return of Roman Reigns and Solo's rejoining of the faction was a shift that would change the landscape of SmackDown. But it wasn't just about the reunion, it was about what Solo Sikoa could now do in this new chapter. With Roman's leadership and his new allegiance to his family, Solo was poised for greatness. Here are 4 major things Solo Sikoa could do next on WWE SmackDown. 1. Form a new bloodline faction. Solo Sikoa, now firmly back in the fold, could use his position to form a new version of the bloodline, one with fresh blood, different ideologies, and perhaps even new members. Roman Reigns has already established his dominance, but Solo's new babyface status could set the stage for a shift in the faction's dynamic. In a world where the wrestling landscape constantly evolves, Solo could bring in new superstars, perhaps some rising talents who have been overlooked, or even a few like-minded individuals who are hungry for gold. The faction could lean into the legacy of the bloodline while shifting away from the usual dominance that Roman and his predecessors have exuded. A more inclusive, family-oriented bloodline could emerge, with Solo as the driving force behind a revolution. This new faction could see Solo stepping up as the leader of a new generation, carrying forward the true message of family while empowering younger talent. By bringing in stars from different backgrounds and giving them a platform, this would mark Solo as a formidable and intelligent leader with the ability to reshape the future of SmackDown. 2. Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns compete as a team against the Judgment Day. After reconciling with Roman, Solo Sikoa could further solidify his babyface status by teaming up with Roman Reigns to take on the top heel faction on SmackDown, the Judgment Day. Rhea Ripley, Dominic Mysterio, and Finn Balor have been dominating, but they lack the strength and unity that Roman and Solo can bring as a tag team. A series of tag matches between Roman and Solo against the Judgment Day could add a fresh dynamic to the ongoing conflict, giving Roman and Solo a chance to demonstrate their cohesion and strength. In this scenario, Roman Reigns' veteran experience would blend seamlessly with Solo's enforcer mentality. Together, they could be an unstoppable force, taking down the likes of Finn Balor and Dominic Mysterio, all while teasing a major match with Rhea Ripley. This partnership could also act as a stepping stone for Solo to prove his worth in the main event scene, further elevating his status. 3. Solo Sikoa takes on a major singles feud. Solo's return and babyface turn would immediately position him for a major singles push. After years of being a tag team wrestler and enforcer, Solo could now be placed in a spotlight where he can prove himself as a top star in the making. A feud with a top-tier superstar such as Gunther, Drew McIntyre, or even Sheamus would set the stage for Solo to elevate his profile. A series of singles matches could help Solo build a strong storyline where he takes on various opponents in competitive, hard-hitting bouts, ultimately earning a shot at a major title like the Intercontinental Championship. This could culminate in a huge pay-per-view match, where Solo would not only gain credibility as a singles competitor, but also showcase his resilience and determination. With Roman Reigns in his corner, Solo could be positioned as a legitimate contender, ready to dethrone champions and send shockwaves through the SmackDown roster. 4. Solo Sikoa's leadership role in the Bloodline and SmackDown's future. Solo's return to the Bloodline and his shift to the babyface side could signal a leadership transition within the group. As Roman Reigns continues to evolve his character, he may take on a more hands-off role, allowing Solo to take the lead in certain aspects of the Bloodline. This would allow Solo to grow into a more prominent role on SmackDown, possibly even moving into the managerial aspect, where he guides other up-and-coming superstars under his wing. By positioning himself as a mentor, Solo could focus on the long-term growth of the Bloodline, keeping its relevance intact while also creating a more diversified brand. His leadership could be the foundation of SmackDown's future, nurturing young talent while re-establishing the faction as a major force. Conclusion: the rebirth of Solo Sikoa. The reunion of Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns on SmackDown is a pivotal moment that reshapes not only the Bloodline but the entire landscape of WWE. Solo's turn to the babyface side opens up a world of possibilities, from forming new factions to pursuing singles glory. As he moves forward, there are limitless ways for Solo to carve out a legendary path for himself on WWE SmackDown. Fans and superstars alike will be watching with bated breath as Solo Sikoa steps into his new role, making an impact and continuing the legacy of his family while creating his own destiny. The future is bright for Solo, and his journey on SmackDown is just beginning.